right, let me get my stuff together here. All right, good evening and welcome. So my name is David Holper, and I'm the MC for the evening, and thank you. So I'm a teacher at College of the Redwoods, and I'm also the first poet laureate for the city of Eureka. And I guess that's why Jack asked me to get this event together, because he thought, you know all the young poets, so that's how this came about. So I'm honored to present to you this evening of youth performances for the Against the Wind Festival. Now before we get started, this is just a reminder, take your cell phone out, turn it off, so that it's not going to interrupt the performers, because you know there's nothing worse than a poetry event or a public kind of performance and somebody's cell phone goes off or it beeps or whatever. So just so you know, there'll be an intermission about halfway through, and the program that you have in front of you, except for the actual performers, is not really what's going to happen tonight, but it's close to what's going to happen tonight. We have a number of late additions to our program, and we'll make sure to introduce you to them as they come up. So before I get too far, I have several thank yous. I would first like to thank Jack Irvine. Where are you, Jack? Okay, there's Jack. He's the person on the steering committee who asked me to organize this event. And I'd also like to thank all the Against the Wind steering committee folks. So would you all raise your hands, steering committee folks? I know you're out there. Thank you, folks. I'd like to thank our two youth interns, Gail McComas and Armando Pena. Where are you two? I know you're out there somewhere.
They're at the desk.
Oh, they're at the desk. Okay, never mind. I'd like to give a big shout out. Dawn, where are you, Dawn Tisdale? Where are you, Dawn? She's my #1 recruiter for youth poets. Thank you so much. And also Josue, sitting right next to her. Josue, on his own, volunteered to put together a writing workshop to help some of the poets write something for tonight. So thanks for doing that, Josue. And then I'd like to thank our two musicians, Ariel Fishkin and Julio Perdido. And they actually wrote a bio about themselves, which is in here somewhere. Oh yeah, here it is. So here's what they wrote about themselves. Ariel Fishkin and Julio Torres are both singer-songwriters living in Arcata. They play together in the band Blood Honey and are artists and activists in the social struggles for racial justice and gender equity. Thank you for that work. Ariel enjoys roller skating dogs, talking about feelings, and gardening. And Julio enjoys finding new ways to be creative and making connections with people. And I'd like to thank all of you for coming tonight. So without you, there'd be no show. I am so honored to host this event. As we're all too well aware, this is an age of miracles and disasters. We are living witness to one of the strangest eras in American politics, in which the norms of leadership have been utterly overturned. And our country is so deeply divided between liberals and conservatives, rich and poor, people of color and whites. We seem to be sitting on a powder keg, just waiting for someone crazy enough to bring a match to the party. Yet at the same time, we seem to live in an age of miracles. The technologies that we have at the touch of our fingers give us longer lives, instant connectivity, the ability to find or send or explore bodies of knowledge utterly unknown to our ancestors. We are faced with the age of the Anthropocene, in which half of the wildlife on the planet has died in the last 40 years, in which we're faced with the myriad complexities and disasters of global warming that, although we clearly understand we have no ability to unify as a world body to address this problem in any meaningful way. Yet, it is not an era without hope. For 30 years, I have taught high school and college students, and I can see that the answers to the questions we face are bound up in the courage of our young people. It is the courage of people like Greta Thunberg who stand up to the world leaders and shame them for their inaction, demanding not the nominal efforts of a non-binding treaty, but binding agreements that require every country in the world to cut their greenhouse gas emissions. It is the courage of Malala Yousafzai, who stood up for educating girls, even though it cost her a bullet in the head and nearly cost her her life, yet she would not be silenced in her demands that her country educate young women, not merely consign them to a life of marriage and poverty. It is the vision of people like Boyan Slat, who looked at the problems of plastic in the oceans and designed deployable booms that could potentially clean up all the plastic in the ocean in 5 years, even though people told him that's impossible. That is what we need today. We need young people who, in the midst of adults who are telling them that's impossible, to go forward and show the world the only thing that is impossible is to leave the world in the sorry state that it is. So, with that said, I am going to get out of the way and introduce our first performer. So, our first performer tonight is Josue Valdez, and he is a local person who works at a restaurant slow cooking things. And when he's not working, he's figuring out what kind of educational path he would like to pursue. Panicking, writing, or playing in a mysterious arcade band that goes by the moniker of Spirit Notes, or the more elusive D3D. He has been published in the North Coast Journal and the Seven Gill Shark Review, that's the literary magazine for CR, for which he won a big prize. He'll gladly take career advice. He has a degree in communications and is looking for one in English. Keep looking. Which is impractical and probably a terrible decision in a capitalist economy. Yeah, I know that story. Josue is drawn to late-night burritos like mosquitoes to the supple skin of a swollen cow. If he likes you, he will cook you pupa sauce. All right. Come on up, Josue. Get this evening going.
Hi, everybody. I was working on 3 poems for this, and none of them were finished except for one. So I guess it kind of touches on a little bit of income inequality and a little bit of like gender politics. And it's set in a kind of speculative dystopia that I feel is not too distant from where we are presently. The original piece I wanted to read was called You're Part of the Problem, but that poem is, as of now, still unfinished. The one I did actually manage to finish is one called All Hands. So here it is. No, I'm not curious about the child that could be. Our bodies buckle under the material conditions breaking them, and we try not to think about the gulf between carpal tunnel and 2 paychecks from the street. Or how does one hide a swelling belly from a manager concerned about the effect on the bottom line? I say, someday, maybe this insanity will be over. My rough hands feel for the major chord in your spine. You know the minor in mine. I give you its song, a short requiem. We can't even consider sustaining another. The letter of the law offers no choice. The state will sour the milk from your breast before it admits wealth does not trickle down from the coffers of industry emperors. It will salt the earth if there is a penny to be made in barren land. It will subject our bodies to the demands of capital and reproduction as divine decree. I shake. You brace my body against the storm in my mind. I feel the calm in you as your whispers beat back the wind. I've been here before. Nothing is hopeless. My body is mine alone, and yours is yours alone, but we are never alone. We are all of the earth, and we claim our place within it with our hands. The major chord in your spine sings against my fingers, and I silence myself to hear the melody of our bodies together. You draw my ear to the ground and ask, can you hear it? I hear the rumble of cars outside, the humming of electrical lines, the floor of our little apartment shifting under our knees. I hear the paws of the dog next door, the baby down the hall crying, her exacerbated mother pacing, water passing through the pipes, the clacking of fingers on a keyboard. Faintly, underneath it all, or over it like a blanket in slumber, the melody of bodies together, all of us together. And that's that poem. All right, the next poem is by Zane Simon, who is a junior at the Academy of the Redwoods early college program. English and poetry are some of his favorite subjects and hobbies. He often stays up late writing and listening to his favorite musical artists, with more than 10 fully written unpublished books. He likes to test his skills in storytelling, poetry, and songwriting. He is planning on majoring in business and political science after high school, with writing fictional and non-fictional novels in his spare time. However, he couldn't be here tonight, so Dave's lovely wife, Michelle, will be reading in his place.
Okay, Zane wrote A World at War. 16 hours ago, an American airplane dropped one bomb on Hiroshima. The force from which the sun draws its powers has been loosed against those who brought the war in the Far East. Harry S. Truman. 1. The war to end all wars. It ended nothing, but it started a second one to lurk. 2, ironically birthed from the first, causing even more damage to the innocent in its wake. Across the sky, 2 bombs fell, causing the earth herself to shake, leaving nothing behind. No fields to till, no bodies to bury. All was barren, all was burned, all was dead. What will it take for world peace? World domination? For us to see a peaceful resolution to our world's nations? Will we be forced to send our brothers and sons into war on more than an occasion, sentencing them to death and scarring our home with lacerations? Death is a scar. 1 was only 16 million. 2 was 70. Nuclear warheads? 226,000 killed in minutes. Killing so many, leaving the rest of the world just a witness. Atrocities of war, killing more and more. But when will more be too much? The bombs were dropped 74 years ago, now nearing 75. Never forget, never repeat. But when will we? When will nuclear war once again turn to necessity? To kill their men once again, to protect our home and unity? Will the next bombs finally destroy us like it was believed? War must end or it will end us. And a world split is no home, but a graveyard infested with rot. We are alone, suffering, in war-torn land that we selfishly sought. 1. 2. How can we truly prevent? By reducing others' supply? Guess that'll only really work before things go awry. When that happens, if it's us that we should stop? Before things go nuclear in a feeling we can't drop. War. War will never change, but that doesn't mean we can't change ourselves. Across the board, we're just pawns of war, always killing someone else. 1, 2, 3. So Jasmine Fortunato is an English major at Humboldt State, and she will be declaring her minor in anthropology this spring. She is 18 years old and new to the area. She's our next poet.
Hello. I've been thinking of the size of the mic all night. When deciding what I wanted to perform, I wanted to write an original, and I was laying in bed, and then I looked down. So this is called Bra Size. When I was in 4th grade, I started developing breasts. My father couldn't look at me anymore, and my mother got depressed. My father reluctantly brought me training bras and tossed them my way, all the while complaining about how much he had to pay. You see, I didn't know it then, but my life was different now. I think my father knew. He didn't say it out loud, but I think that was the day that my brother became number 1 and I became number 2. And when I went to school the next day, suddenly there were boys who wanted to talk to me. They hadn't wanted to talk to me yesterday, but I was getting attention. So I didn't question when one of them stuck their hand up my shirt, and I swallowed the nose that clung to my throat and instead laughed as if it were a joke. But if I'm being honest, it wasn't very funny. I went home and cried, crashed into my bed, burrowed under the sheets, and told my brother, to tell the family I had died and that I was dead. My father pounded on my door, said to give up these childish antics, stop being dramatic. But Dad, I screamed, I am a child. But because of the weight on my chest, that's not how it seemed. Now this weight on my chest is much more than tits, because I realize that all girls have a story like this. When I was having a crisis about who I was now, my brother was in the backyard doing things that made my father proud. He was still a boy. I was a woman. He could still play with toys, while suddenly I was put in the kitchen to learn to be self-sufficient, is what my father said. You see, boys get to be boys until they decide to be men. Meanwhile, girls are only girls till it's no longer convenient. But if I'm being honest, I wasn't ready, and I wish I could have waited because my brother was the one who got to be sated. So stop making girls grow before they are willing. Stop teaching boys that being the villain is thrilling. I wonder if my brother and I would be closer if I hadn't spent every waking moment back then growing colder and bitter. At the life he got to have, the life I wished for with the approved dad attached. If we nurture children without these social competitions, maybe we'd all be on the same side. So instead of fighting each other, we could have the social justice usually described. Thank you. All right, our next performer, a transplant from Orange County, Danny Welsh has called Humboldt County home for nearly a decade. Danny is pursuing her master's degree in counseling psychology at Prescott College, and so she can serve the community she loves as a clinical counselor. She passionately advocates for justice in all forms, including social, environmental, and shredding misogynists apart. Danny lives with 2 pet rats, Chai and Mocha, who share their mother's distaste for bad coffee and the patriarchy. When she isn't completely rocking your world, Danny's climbing rocks, dancing like everyone is watching, and helping to create a more cohesive community. Danny is also drawn to late-night burritos like a mosquito to the supple skin of a swollen cow.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Can y'all hear me?
Oh, yeah.
I have a confession. I am an angry woman. At least half of you just decided that you don't trust me. You think I might start yelling at you for any reason, that I'm on my period, that I might start just pelting you with tampons. People tell me to work on my anger issues, as though my anger is the poison in the well and not a response to the 1,000 tiny cuts that would kill me. As though my anger is not justified in a world held in fists that want to crush it. As though when a man reminds me that my body is a commodity, I am supposed to smile and tell him when and where it is allowed to be consumed. I can trace the trauma in my family through mitochondrial DNA. Women who were abused, medicated, muzzled, women who were not allowed to be angry because women are pretty, and anger is ugly. If you Google image search anger, you will find pictures of white men breaking things. For women, anger is something to be controlled, collared, leashed, taught to say please through gritted teeth. Women are allowed to ask for peace on stage with a smile. Women are allowed to ask for peace while men make battlegrounds of our bodies, but we are not allowed to be angry. I am an angry woman. I build my anger up like a bonfire, fed by every bruise left on a woman's arm, every law scrawled across the whiteboard of our bodies, every discounted me too, every unheard no. My anger is a strangling vine growing up, please. I am angry for every time I get dressed and wonder, will they say I was asking for it? I am angry for every woman afraid to leave her home, for every woman who has lost her home, for every woman afraid to go home. I am angry. And if that makes you uncomfortable, I am not sorry. I will not call this poison. My rage will not simmer on a stove in the kitchen I was genetically gifted. It grows from the taproot of a tree men have been trying to chop down for centuries. A tree that will not die, but grows stronger with each generation. I am an angry woman because my grandmother could not be. I am an angry woman because my anger does not sign my death warrant. I build my anger up like a bonfire. I stoke the flames from coals left by women before me. I call other women to add their kindling. The fire grows and smoke curls into the lungs of men who would silence us. Let them choke. Fire. Anger is the fire we light to keep the predators at bay. It is the last refuge for women whose sorrow has grown so great it threatens to consume them. Anger is the lifeboat we paddle in circles trying to find a shore of peace, the cage we wrap around our hearts like chainmail, the bullhorn we use to shout our pain. We do not want to be angry. We want to be heard. Our next performer is Dawn Tisdall. She is a student at College of the Redwoods, where she studies English and is excited to start HSU's Environmental Resource Engineering program in the spring. Outside of school, Dawn enjoys playing melancholy folk music on the banjo, guitar, and ukulele. Her favorite authors are Kurt Vonnegut and Rachel Bob Waxberg. Dawn is also drawn to late-night burritos like a mosquito to the supple skin of a swollen crown.
Hi. So I'm gonna read Christos, and I am usually more of a behind-the-scene person. And I wrote this really nice email to Dave that said I'll be behind the scenes but not read in front. And he very graciously ignored my email wisely. And I'm actually really grateful for it because it brings me out of my comfort zone, and I think if we're gonna make change, we all need to be out of our comfort zone a little bit. Okay. No bird ever called me crazy. No rock scorns me as a whore. The earth means exactly what it says. The wind is with flattery or lust. Greed is balanced by the hunger of all. So I embrace anew, as my childhood spirit did, the whispers of a world without words. I realized one day after another nuclear protest, another proposed bill to make nuclear waste disposal here, that I had no power with those. My power rests with a greater being, a silence which goes on behind the uproar. I decided that in a nuclear holocaust, for certainly, they will be stupid enough to cause one, if their history is any example. That I wanted to be planting corn and squash. After, there will be other beings of some kind. They'll need to eat. They aren't the people who come to take the clams like those to the lobby of at the airport for nuclear power. Who is not guilty of being a thief? Who among us gives back as much as we take? Who among us has enough respect? Does anyone know the proper proportions? My distant ancestors knew some things that are lost to me, and I would not have the insidious luxury of this heat, journal, and pen without the concurrent problems of nuclear waste storage. When we are gone, someone else will come. Dinosaur eggs might hatch into the intense nuclear explosions. I will be sad to see the trees and birds on fire. Surely they are innocent, as none of us has been. With their song, they know the sacred. I am in a circle with that soft, enduring word. In it is the wisdom of all peoples. Without a deep, deep understanding of the sacredness of life, the fragility of each breath, we are lost. The Holocaust has already occurred. What follows is only the burning brush. How my heart aches and cries to write these words. I am not as calmly indifferent as I sound. I will be screaming, no, no more destruction in that last blinding light. Next up, a Puritan roamer of the charcoal-swept nebulous and grottoist for the mills of cellulotic grace, Lillian Price writes in hope someday she will be simple.
Hello, I apologize for that very abstract biography. As you'll see in this poem, pretty abstract. So I invite you to close your eyes if you wish. Expansions, a rosary. When there is no future, our night sweats become ablutions for the songbirds, in which songbirds fold their cleansing, masterful as schoolgirls in oracle play and origami. When there is no future, our nightmares become rituals for the scrub jay to squawk at, the transfiguration torn to pine scales and oil cans dropped by the morning, a rendered slab of children asking, what if we have been abandoned? The tadpoles and minnows of a summer's pool, rancid with expectation. 2. Rolling in over blackout mountains, mother and child disarm pride, plentiful in flock-bright altars, sword hearts suturing threats to continual repair, trembling cosmologies split in trembling cosmologies and biotic silhouettes split like eyelids parting, meeting in time for tragedy, just in time. 3. Warnings bend like pines, magnetized by warm breath as creaking sirens climb, children bloody with elevation. For muddy chasm, immediate heat, irrigation, hospital, drip, no longer children fretting. And what about the silence of our kind? And our artillery that preens the dusk, 5, like icons around a door, roses bordering a throat, as amber evaluating each extinction, the last of its kind, feeding, pulsing, receding to another quote, preservation. 6. Or do we survive only in chains? Our raw ankles, wrists aching, fetter us in achings then, that we may survive and monitor the spilled contents when the scales of conformity crack and our souls pour through like water clocks. 6. Softly, unrepentant, the butcher alights, majesty stung on a mirror window, slaughtering us with qualities in the pre-dawn passage, carving us in eternity. 7. They say it will be set on high when there is no future. The only thing left to give you is your innocence and the perils of constant guidance. 8. Beloved, my memory is cauterized to you, as toad croaks to dialect fens, as fishes renewal in lamay and rushes, the golden kamas, flung and flayed, grace as material when there is no future. Beloved, my memory, beloved, your memory is suction to our private skins, material as grace, incense warped without future, shaft burst into unnavigable air. Coming next is Jesse Gordon. Jesse Gordon attends College of the Redwoods. He lives alone, writes and covers an independent comic, and hopes to publish the collection of short stories soon.
Hello. This poem is called The Beast. Humanity waits as the beast draws near. This beast consumes all we hold dear. The beast sings a song of fire, but mankind's distracted by its mutual ire. The forests are gone, the grass is too, fracturing our world, turning us to glass. Esoteric prayers and new science won't stop the world from falling silent. Thought water will rise in a corrupted tide. Together we will suffer the beast's tithe. Some deny the beast is real, turning nature into a blood mill. Dark clouds lie just ahead. If we don't change, we're dead. Humanity waits as the beast draws near, but this beast is already here. When the world is ash, don't be shocked, because the beast's climate change wasn't stopped. Thank you. Our next poet, Nick Wilczewski, is a father to 2 boys and is in his second year of College of the Redwoods, studying English. He was born and raised on the south side of Chicago, and that essence shines through in his poetry. Nick has been through many ups and downs in his life and sees the opportunity to be in school as a blessing. He has always loved poetry and is grateful to Professor Holper for creating a space to share it. He'd also like to thank his beautiful mother, the beautiful mother to his son Cassidy, and his partner Lindsay Schultz, because without her, none of this would be possible.
Hey, how's everyone doing? Everything's been great so far, right? Really good stuff. It's been good. This poem's called The News. I was watching the news one night, and it was just tough to watch, so I literally just jotted it down. So here it goes. The news, an antiquated thought about information. I can't handle the news anymore. It's disgusting. A bunch of maladjusted criminals talking about justice. I feel like I need crutches, but I can't afford them. They'd rather spend my money detaining babies at the border than force us to follow laws that we all voted against and blame it all on the foreigners. There's war in us, interrupting our 7-inch entertainment buzz, comes flying in our face faster than fame does. Famous? That's a joke, cuz. Everyone's chasing it like designer drugs. While our planet melts below our feet, you don't hear a word about that on the broadcast, not even a peep. Commercial breaks have us coveting things that are impossible to reach. Can't even pay a decent wage for professionals to teach. Where do we look for help when we can't trust our politicians' speech? And our food is contaminated with poison and our garbage has flooded the sea. Every night at 11 o'clock news, every night at 11 o'clock news on your living room television screen. I'm in search of the fighters, the people that want to stand up and unite us. Make everybody see the commonalities that make us we? Or am I just lost in a daydream, trying to fill these vacancies that are left inside my head from the news? I can't handle watching it anymore. Thank you. Next, we have Ruby DeVoe. Ruby's a junior at North Coast Preparatory Academy. She's been a journalist for the school newspaper and had work published in the NPA Literary Magazine. Over the summer, she attended the California State Summer School for the Arts in creative writing with an emphasis on poetry. Ruby has always felt an affinity for nature and animals and enjoys taking her snake Pluto with her on walks in the forest. Whenever possible, she opts to write outdoors. Ruby plans to major in social sciences and hopes she can use her writing to raise awareness for the challenges of today's world, environmental and otherwise. Ruby DeVoe.
Okay, so my poem is not actually called Poem, it's called The Bunyip, but that was a mistake on my part, so. It's about, it's inspired by a story that my mom read to me when I was a kid about an Australian creature called the bunyip that lives in the swamplands of Australia. It's mythical, but it reminded me of the immigration crisis that we're facing today and just how everyone is so afraid of what they don't understand, so I wrote this poem being inspired by that book. One night, for no apparent reason, the bunyip of barns and barbershops next to billabong outlets arrived and kneaded and walked up and knocked at the door and you knew. And bolted it tight, too transient to be let in, bolted against the night, and the creatures crawling, bunyip brown and decayed for lack of love left in the cold. What the hell are you? And if you really looked, you'd see a man left alone in the cardboard, bare-bone place he was told to call home. Home is where the heart is, so come they beckon, settle down, they said, in the swampland. Here you can stay until the policeman calls for his due and so commands you, take yourself away, no time, do it now, quick, smart, leave, you're not welcome here. The animals bid their babies' eyes open to the skies and aided the man on his way. Entourage of rats and crows, these things you know is garbage. In half-bald, worn-down threads and shoes a size too big laden on his heel, the bunyip man made his way up half the world for a place to stay. And he thought maybe the man on the moon smiled down in the night, but who would know, when you don't grow tall to cast eyes up and catch a glimpse of his fair face snowy in the shade of the sycamore sky rises. Silly, 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 don't you know? Can't you see? Mothers told their children through cement walls or on cement sidewalks, that man is not like you and me. He rises with the coming of the sun, celestial, and shadows flow and fade, and he will forever be the same. Well, he knew not where he would go when summer sweet faded to falling snow. The people here walked the earth until unkind, unfair, less, draining in roadside cracks till there was nothing left. At night, bunyip bag on hips swayed side to side with the praise pink waning tide. Kids were torn from fingers pink with cold, locked away and vault and hold the babies tight or you might lose them. Lose the only thing we get to choose anymore. The walls are closing in. Jets and gentrified, world's gone, homes pawned, middle class picked apart into lit cigarettes that glow in the dark, like neon wristbands and arms still fatty with youth unknowing of borders and bad and banshees crying for they have no welcome in this world. No rest for the wicked, no peaches to be picked, no place for you to get your due. They see, I know they do. How can you turn them away? Away from all their hopes and dreams, nothing is as simple as it seems. Goblin girls and bunyip men, invisible as they are to you, their struggles in this world are nothing new. Make amends and give away the dividends, justice. It's not a choice, it's human rights, it's human struggle, human plights. Bunyip brains are all the same as ours, and bleed Bermuda, lost in these droughtiest of days, crying repentance for our sinful ways. The rosy jello out of your cheeks, see the bunyips of broken families and tangy lips, stinging in underpass air, tri-tip smell of meat gone bad when you remember what you once had. Sticky with applesauce, modified and fake farms, face the facts you're not supposed to know about that. People worked in blazing sun, cashmere, cash cows, golden geese held at gunpoint, some starved, some for slaughter, blind and fat with faith for a future that has already fallen by the wayside. Human hands with blisters, bleeding, but the bright of crimson, never gonna give up. Someday it will be enough, never enough to be home. In the land of plenty, monopolized by pretty platitudes, the bunyip man was forced to roam, an impostor on the earth to which we owe our very birth. Land that needs us all, appalled at our ignorance, our avarice, our obsession with our merchandise. The bunyip sighed and looked away, just save it for another day. The squabbling of little men and beast and bunyip locked in pen, bountiful in our pain, beautiful in our isolation, barbaric in our humanity, barbaric in our love, barbaric yet we bleed the same. In the creek beds that scrape by in the drying, dying lands, places the kids will never know, robbed of silken melts in a moment, candied snow, going, gone. And what is left to show? For all the sacrifice saved the world, but now there's nowhere left to go. Now in the creek beds, dry crows pray for something cold to soothe their aching voices. No more water and land berated with disease. Help us, please. Starvation in a wealthy nation, Noah's Ark can take but few. The rest won't drown, but still they'll die in pools of ammonia and waste and peroxide. To the leaders of our world, to those who cry danger not for drought, but from the bunyips that they fear are not like them. To those who say that might is right, I do still hope you'll see the light. To realize that you're not alone on this earth, to stop putting yourself first. To stop extracting, profiting, and pumping pesticides, because this is where we all reside. See the light and stop placing blame on all that is not just like you. It's all one and the same. Me and you and by and through the border walls of barbed wire. Why can't we simply be human? Why can't we simply be barbaric and loved and free? To love, to choose, to be. So together we can try to keep the bunyip lands of billabongs, waterholes, the holiest of homes, where we can be free to love and choose and live without walls, just free. Next up we have Jacoby Couton, who's a 16-year-old and a junior at Academy of the Redwoods. When he's not at school, you'll likely find him in his room doing homework or hiking on the trails in his home in his hometown of Ferndale. He's attended 5 different schools, lived on an island for a month, and has broken into a castle. He has won the Humboldt County History Day Championship twice, but otherwise has no literary accolades. He has always enjoyed public speaking and poetry.
Alright, hey everyone. You guys hear me?
Yeah.
Alright. So I don't have too much of an explanation for this poem, but just take it as you will. Trudging through the murky mire, ascending up the sprawling spires, lies a man forged in fire and quenching his own blood. Bundled up in tattered flags to break the howling winds. I can't dump out his contents, else they would roll across the floor. So I must keep him bundled there, while I ponder at his circumstance. Is his condition a relic or a feature of the creature we call man? Is it taught to our children or an aspect of some plan? Is this capacity to hate something that our world demands? Can he be the one to blame for the suffering he has caused? It depends on who you ask. The man watching the TV or the woman who lost her son. Regardless of who you choose, don't forget to ask the dead. The ones we sing for when the air is bereft of tune. We hum the solemn hymn of when war did begin. When we lost the understanding that hatred breeds hatred, that in violence we kill the ones we love, not just our children, not just our parents, not just our families, but ourselves. This leaves little recourse for the man atop the spire. This cannot be why he trudged through murky mire. For his sake, I hope it's not. I hope that we find that understanding in the mire, among the vines and knotted roots, for the lotus only grows within the swamp.
All right, folks, we're going to take a 15-minute intermission and then come back for the second half. So we've got a lot of really good performers still to go, so enjoy yourself. The snack bar is open, and we'll see you in 15 minutes. They're amazing. Okay, so how was the first half so far? Yeah, I agree. Amazing performance. there's even more stuff coming in the second half, so get ready. So our first performer in the second half is Helen Berry, and she writes about herself that she's a graduating senior at Humboldt State University studying in the English writing program, a poet at heart. Helen has been writing creatively her whole life. She's been told she once wrote a sidewalk chalk monologue as far as the cement ran. Helen hopes to continue a career in writing or publication and dreams of being invited to read her work. Helen is also vice president of HSU's English Club and one of the typesetters for Toyon's literary magazine. Way to go. Helen believes in social and environmental justice, and she enjoys studying at HSU. So Helen, come on up.
Hello. How was everybody's intermission? Got some popcorn? Good? Okay, good. So, before we continue on with my poetry, I would like everybody to take a deep breath right now with me. Just right now. Ready? This is to ground yourself, and mostly me, to remind myself that it's Tuesday, November 12th. It's past 8 p.m. We're in Arcata. This is the Arcata Playhouse Theater, and you're about to listen to a 22-year-old read your poetry. So this poem was originally written for last year's Toyon issue. Last year the theme was migration. I did not end up submitting this poem to the issue. This year it's the taboo, which is fun. I did kind of update this poem for this event, and the theme last year was migration, so I took it upon myself to explore migration of a different kind, the migration of body. Our bodies are always changing, especially as young people. I identify as a woman, but sometimes I don't really know what that means, so that's what this poem is about. All right, body of Athena. I am the Athena, born of my own Zeus. My head is my palace, and space-time is my curse. And when pushed from that hardy cranium, I had no sex. I am a conception of a woman. I am the lines she was drawn with. I seek movement and truth. Call it migration. Change of abode, change of a body. My era, the fates knew me once, knew me as the goddess of wisdom before I knew myself. Carving theories in the bone-dry walls of the skull, I scribbled to find my name. A philosopher, I searched for answers in the stars. I am the mental, I am the pragmatic, I am the wise. That's what they told me. Like parchment, they confined me to form. I am chaos, library ruins, and the look of a skeptic when she's proven wrong. I am lassoed by another thought, a memory of a memory of a memory. I am brain, call me Sherlock. But I am no human genius, nor am I man. I am no quill, no ink spill. When the writer looks towards frosted glass, I am the ice. Holmes is hot-headed. Athena seeks to bleed beyond her edges and freeze. Mount Olympus, I was crowned there, bare and beautifully new, a babe born of her father's head, but now I search for a new body. I seek a movement from one state of being to another. I navigate the scape of a field I plowed, and I harvest the fruits I have grown for myself, but I am without form. I am always learning. Yesterday, I was told my position under the stars was set at birth. You are a teacher, Athena. You are wisdom. Today, I choose autonomy over my body. I journey. Call my form, non-form, a canvas. I am emblazoned in pain. I take ink like narrative veins. If I do have body, I am art. If I do not, I am vapor. I am a warrior, not a soldier. I do not play war games like men do. Ha! Hear this mouth? I let her run. I am a machine, and I have much to say. Hera once told of women, their flower vase shapes, their lily eyes. I am drawn to this form, but can I mirror it? I find fragments of womanhood in applications of gender, applications of rouge to the lips, to the mouth of my mouth. Girls, they honor me, wear threads like draperies. I am Diana. My archers are dreams. I move in time, and I am confused. This is not my body, I seek another. I was birthed on bone with freedom. There I had the eye of truth. I had hands to paint the rise and set of sun, Helios my muse. There I was young and wise. Here I seek a house for myself in my aqueous state. I consider the womb I left, the skull of Zeus, and seek one now, perhaps of tinus and flesh, or fire and ash. Perhaps I seek no home at all. My journey is entrapment of thought and displacement of body. A migrant, my travels have taken me far from Olympus on the whim of a question, seeking place for my body, the body of a body and the body of mind. I find this body in strength. I find this body earth. I find the earth. Here, I find trees. I look up and I am reconciled. I know bark, I know pine. Evergreen, perhaps she is my mother. A redwood, I am the immortal child. The tree is the body I was looking for. My fates have sent me skating from one plane of a life to another. I am formless, but I have been formed. I move, and yet I am constant. I possess one state, discover woman, and return to vapors. Goddess, they call me, but I am air. I am no woman. I am the body of Athena. I am wisdom. Feathers, I am an owl, and she is the tree. That's it. David told us we could read 2 poems, so it might be weird for me to be the first one to read 2 poems, but before I introduce Geneva, who is up next, I'm going to be reading a poem by Emma Lazarus, The New Colossus. Emma, as you probably know, was a prolific and prominent Jewish poet, and her words are inscribed on the Statue of Liberty. This poem is relevant to the refugees that we have coming into America right now, so I thought it might be pertinent to read the poem again. The New Colossus by Emma Lazarus. Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land. Here at our sea-washed, sunset gates shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name, Mother of Exiles. From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome, her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor that twin cities frame. Keep, ancient lands, your storied pomp, cries she with silent lips. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. Next poet we have on this stage is Geneva Samuelson. Geneva Samuelson is a junior at Fortuna High. Fortuna? She is the reigning champion of her school's poetry recitation and poetry slam competitions. She will be attending Coastal Honor Choir this November and looks forward to the caroling season. She is inspired by her grandma, Neil Gaiman, Sandra Cisneros, Elle Woods from Legally Blonde, and the zeal for life of her cat Minerva. Minerva McGonagall, is that right? Yes, okay. She plans to graduate next year and attend a UC for her bachelor's in history, then attend law school. Outside of school, she enjoys cooking for her family, spending time with friends, and is currently working on her first short story. Let me welcome Geneva.
Hi, I'm Geneva Samuelson. I am reading The Pain I Carry as a Young Queer Woman. My warning to you is that this poem involves sexual assault. I will not be offended if you leave. I understand that it's a heavy subject that some of us do not want to be taken back to. I have been so afraid. When the first girl I gave my heart to, with her short hair holding her girlfriend's hand, went out at night. Walking down the street, with her in my mind, me knowing that she was in danger, even in this blue state. With the image of Matthew Wayne Shepherd carved into the back of my hand, with the image of the holes through Harvey Milk's head in the back of my mind. I am privileged to have parents that never told me I wasn't allowed to love someone. Privileged that my culture allows me to exist this way as long as I keep it to myself. Privileged to be alive now in California in a blue state. Privileged that I can stand the sight of makeup on my own face. Privileged that my partner right now is male. Privileged that I can perform my femininity and still feel honest. Privileged that no one calls me faggot on the street. They just call me other things. Privileged that I like my hair this length. But how dangerous is it, this long shoulder length? This is one of the things that I take into account when I walk on the street. How much can my 2 keys protect me in between my knuckles? I am so afraid because my long hair has been pulled while I have been choked. Mascara streaked cheeks with my knees on the kitchen linoleum, with my hands on his thighs, pushing to catch my breath. I didn't even know to call it assault because I didn't say no. Survivor's guilt is present before the tragedy even strikes. Would I be in the right place in a gay nightclub? Would I even look like I belonged there? It wouldn't matter when the bullets come. It doesn't matter what you look like when you're under fire. Survivor's guilt present before the tragedy even strikes. And that's all. Our next poet is Jacqueline White. Jacqueline is an associate marriage and family therapist who earned a master's in psychology at Humboldt State. Jacqueline's first art and love is therapy and refers to so many psychological theories in her poetry. She's currently enjoying writing from an internal family systems lens, which theorizes humans have many sub-personalities, aka parts. Jacqueline enjoys expressing her various parts through poetry. This piece that will be read tonight acknowledges the part in her that has benefited from white supremacy and how this part needs to be explored. Explored not just by her, but by all white people.
Thank you, Geneva. I'm not a student nor a poet, but I have a message I would like to share with you all. Mount Diablo inspires. Mount Diablo speaks. There lived 3 tribes in peace. And now there's a fucking cell tower where they used to meet, commune, greet, sing, and dance. The white person took the chance to exploit, to cheat, to act from greed, to colonize something yet again and spread their genes. If you're white, I'm talking to you. For Donald Trump lives in me, he lives in you. And to deny that is to deny the havoc, to deny the violations done to our sisters and our brothers, our sisters and our brothers who we can't truly understand due to our skin color. We meet them with microaggressions at the co-op, blatant discrimination across this country. We can't understand the unstitched wound this has on their psyche. Hundreds of years of genocide and fighting is in the fabric of their cells. We can't even pretend to understand that. But we can acknowledge that our white privilege is a fucking thing, that we come from white supremacy. And to deny that is to cut off the Donald that lives in you. And I fear if you sever his head, then you allow him to speak, to act unconsciously through the very flesh sac that benefits you so greatly. Mount Diablo inspires, Mount Diablo speaks. Mount Diablo brings up a myriad of parts in me that I have to face, that I must integrate so I don't act from a place of hate, a place of greed. To know peace is to know and talk to and acknowledge the Donald Trump that lives in me.
Izzy is a junior at Eureka High School and one of 2 Eureka Youth Poet Laureates. She has competed in many local poetry competitions and has pieces of her work published. She also is vice president of Eureka High School's Out Loud Club, which focuses on expressing emotions and thoughts through art mediums and poetry. Izzy wants to encourage her generation to read and write more poetry because she believes that poetry is a gateway to understanding complex emotions and thoughts that on our own we cannot understand. Cool. Izzy.
Howdy, y'all. How you doing tonight? Good. It's very bright up here. I can't see very many people, which is good because I'm nervous.
Come a little closer to the mic so they can hear you.
Cool beans. All right. We all good? You can hear?
Yeah.
Cool. So I got an email from Mr. Holper a couple days after it was delivered to my phone, which really sucked because I would have really liked to have had more time to prepare this thing. But you don't always get that much time. So I decided to write about war, which is a very depressing subject for anyone who's still in high school, because it often feels like you're fighting a war. So I tried to step into the shoes of people that have been through war, and this is what I got. This is called We Made Her Hurt. We made her hurt. We stripped her of her breath. Her eyes rolled back and her back curled in. She cried out for him, knowing he could not answer. We killed him, her love. We put a bullet in his skull, shot the hope of going home straight out of the air. He was hers, and now she has no one. No one looked at the tainted, stinking earth where love lay. We didn't want to. For your country and for your cause, we march, falling into line, for your beliefs and for your soul. We did this. We did this. No apology will be enough for her. We could never understand. In an instant, my faith was attacked. Not by enemy forces, but by my own weapon. For this country, for this cause, for this belief, and for this soul. Faith was dead, and suddenly we became I. My commander barely glances at Faith, who now lies in a twisted position on the dirt. He orders me to move, and Faith says nothing. I cry out for him, knowing he cannot answer. For your country, for your cause, for your beliefs, and for your soul. I march on. I must. No longer is there any pride in the hostile deeds of the fellow soldier, no longer any good in the cause. A world without faith. How can I live? I know the answer. I don't. Thank you. Alrighty, our next poet coming up is Tim Arsenault. I hope I pronounced that right. And he is a student pursuing a bachelor's degree in English at Humboldt State University. He is a 21-year-old African-American man from Sacramento, California, whose preferred academic subjects are literary theory, psychology, and physiology. Tim spends his time writing essays for his English courses, going on hikes, traveling to different colleges with the HSU debate team, and reading books about Asian philosophy. He has been fond of creative writing ever since he was a child and enjoys developing his ability to write through a variety of mediums which include the short story, the novel, and of course, poetry. Tim prefers to write about the themes of identity, otherness, and humanity's relationship with nature in his poems. He writes to explore questions of how we use ideology to construct ourselves in this world, and how the ideology we accept determines the way in which we relate to our environment. Thank you, Tim.
blessing to stand in front of y'all this evening. This is great. I've already been introduced. Before I get into my poetry, I would just like to inform y'all that there is a poetry club on campus at HSU. It is not just for students, it's also open to the community. We get a variety of people from different ages and backgrounds showing up and sharing poetry and learning about how to find their voices in this world where our voices are silenced and we are told to buy things. So if any of y'all would like to show up, or if any of y'all are HSU students, come on by. We have it at Wednesday at 2 to 3 Forest Street building. So yeah, so that's actually one of the reasons why I came here. But the other reason why I came here is to speak poetry. So this is a poem I wrote called The Dark Beginning. Bear with me. It's interesting. So here we go. The darkness in my skin was here from the beginning. It was here since the first days of human beings, when we spent every moment outdoors, when the vast sky was our ceiling and the soft soil was our carpet. When savanna grass brushed against our legs and the pure open air cleansed our nostrils. When our bodies were dark so that the sun's rays did not burn us and we could spend all day in its warm light. When our skin was brown and the earth was brown. Our African ancestors grew from the body of the earth like a great acacia tree, stretching out over all continents, giving birth to all races, all colors, all languages, all ideas, all religions, all cultures, all nations, all tribes, all groups, all individuals. Our African ancestors grew from the body of the earth like a great acacia tree, stretching out over all continents, giving birth to the Ethiopians, the Eritreans, the Egyptians, the Mesopotamians, the Libyans, the Saudi Arabians, the Iranians, the Syrians, the Turkish, the Afghanistani, the Pakistani, the Tibetans, the Indians, the Fijians, the Sri Lankans, the Bangladeshi, the Thai, the Burmese, the Vietnamese, the Chinese, the Japanese, the Aboriginal Australians, the Indonesians, the North Koreans, the South Koreans, the Mongolians, the Russians, the Ukrainians, the Romanians, the Hungarians, the Austrians, the Germans, the Italians, the Algerians, the Moroccans, the French, the Portuguese, the Spanish, the Polish, the British, the Irish, the Finnish, the Swiss, the Norwegians, the Innu, the Cherokee, the Apache, the Lakota, the Dakota, the Wiyot, the Navajo, the Aztecs, the Olmecs, the Mayans, the Mexicans, the Incas, the Panamanians, the Nicaraguans, the Haitians, the Jamaicans, the Cubans, the Colombians, the Brazilians, the Venezuelans, the Chileans, the Peruvians, the Argentinians, and so many, 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 many more. And still growing is this great acacia tree, nourished by the all-embracing light of true understanding, satiated by the all-refreshing rain of true compassion. It sprouts new leaves every day. With each new leaf, a new culture, a new language, a new way of being emerges. But unfortunately, there are those separate red and yellow leaves that dislodge themselves from the branches and crowd the base of the trunk. They stray far from the green of their lofty community and come to know the lonely depths. These individuals fall away. They are lost in the grass. They are swept up by the wind. They are broken into pieces. Shunning variety, they prefer isolation and descend into the lowest of human desires. Thus are they entangled in the grasses of confusion. Shunning the truth of relationship, they prefer the illusion of dominance and are easily swayed. Thus are they carried away by the winds of false rhetoric. Shunning union, they prefer disunion and hate what they see as not them. Holding to their brittle, decaying bodies, they reject even the soil that promises rebirth. Guided by their fear of otherness, they are alienated from their own kind. Guided, driven to sustain only themselves, they are separated from their own world. Thus are they never whole and broken into pieces. Even so, the sun's light still shines on them in their ruined state, and the great acacia tree still covers them with shade even in their lowly position. Eventually, their pigments turn brown like the soil. The thin shards dissolve into the soft dirt. Isolated bodies forget their own names, and the earth melds with them, and they are submerged in the dark beginning once again. So the next poet we have is Caleb Robinson. He is an aspiring jack of all trades. He is currently not attending school, but still writing poetry any chance he gets. He plans to be a computer programmer and eventually run his own prosthetics company. Caleb has read poems at various events and slams and means to continue doing so until he runs out of ideas. Same. All right, please welcome Caleb Robinson.
Hello. Can you guys hear me? Yeah. Okay, cool. This one's very old. It's from like 2016, so sorry. Alright. There's a happy ending over every single rainbow, and every cloud has a silver lining. They tell us to keep dreaming, and that nothing can keep us from shining. Your life is what you make of it, and dreams do come true, and if you believe that, then you are a fool. Because yes, dreams come true, but so do nightmares, and clouds are evaporated tears, and rainbows are a trick of the light. You see, they keep us in this dream state, awake but not really here, fill our heads with lies like rotten teeth with cavities. They brainwash us into thinking that everyone is the best so that no one ever tries to excel. Who is they, you ask? How the hell should I know? I'm not Morpheus, I haven't found that red pill yet. But what I do know is that you can't believe anything, and that if you like it, it's a lie. Because freedom is scary, and it hurts like a bitch, and people always talk about it like they know what it is, but we haven't tasted freedom since the Revolutionary War. We think we know what love is because we watched a stupid show, but all we know is how to get turned on, turned off. We look at the body before we look at a personality, but I'm fed up. I'm just done, and you can't stop me, because I won't stop fighting until every dreamer is woken up. I will paint those clouds black if it kills the delusions, tarnish them, because that's what shiny things do. They gather smudges and fingerprints, the marks from the life of another, because no matter how we fight, we get caught by the current and we go with the flow. We ride the rapids and we get bruises and bumps and we drown, reaching for the lifeguard's hands that looked so strong, so steady, but somehow we slipped because we were under the influence, high on life, and ignoring things that demanded our attention. All right, next poet coming up. Her name is Joanna Mai Tong Yang. I really don't think I pronounced it right. I'm so sorry. She came to the United States from Laos in 1979. She was born in Longsheng. She's currently working full-time as a medical assistant with 20 years of experience in the medical field and at school part-time at CR. She's a single mom of 6, 2 sons, 27 and 15, and 4 daughters, 28, 25, 24, and 21. She moved to Humboldt County and from Merced 3 years ago, which is 6 hours south of here. She loves the outdoors. She loves hiking and taking long walks on the beautiful beaches. A good therapy for the mind is looking for agate stones on Agate Beach. I definitely agree. She also enjoys reggae, soul, funk, and rock and roll music, and also loves going to Arts Alive and seeing all the beautiful creations and just enjoying the nightlife. Most of her family is in Milwaukee, Wyoming. She is the middle child of 9 siblings. She has no family here in Humboldt, but she does have many wonderful friends with beautiful and kind souls.
Thank you, Caleb. And it's my pal. Thank you. So this story started out as an essay from my English class. I didn't imagine that I would be standing here reading it to everybody. However, I am honored to be here, and thank you, David. I am the middle daughter of my family. I have 2 brothers and 4 sisters. We live in Laos as one of the many refugee families from Long Chen during the Vietnam War. I remember we had to move from village to village through valleys and mountains. My home in Laos is not like my home here in the United States. All of our homes in Laos are in 2 different areas. The kitchen is covered with grass straws. The stove is in the middle of the floor with dirt. There's a bamboo bed next to a wall to take a nap. We have a small garden where my mom grew cucumbers, melons, corn, sugar cane, collard greens, string beans, and we have chickens and pigs. Our sleeping quarter was a long wooden apartment type building where there's only one bed. My oldest brother slept in that bed because he go to school. While the rest of us, including my parents, sleep on the floor that covered with floor mats and mosquito nets. One day, as my siblings and I were playing, my mom, with excitement in her face, came and told us that our name has been selected to be one of the families that's going to be going to America in months to come. We were all very happy, especially my mom, because she will finally be united with her parents, brothers, and sisters. As the time getting closer to our departure, my oldest sister was taken for marriage to someone she did not consent to. But as tradition, once a girl is taken, she is forced to marry into that family. My sister was very angry because now she would stay behind. Due to this incident, our departure was delayed for weeks. That day finally came. We packed our belongings and heading to the bus. We met my oldest sister there, waiting and crying. Leaving my sister behind was the hardest thing of my life. From our village, the bus took us to Bangkok, Thailand. Our sleeping area was a huge building full of people sleeping everywhere. I don't remember how we get our food, but the bathing area had these big tubs about 3 to 4 feet tall filled with water. Everybody bathed standing by scooping water from the tubs. I don't know how long we were there, but it seems months. The day is finally here. We're going to America from Bangkok. We flew in this huge plane and landed in Chicago, Illinois. Hearing English over the speakers in the airport was unfamiliar, uncomfortable, a sense of feeling lost, not belong or fear. What will happen to us? Then we saw my uncle. He greeted us and took us to our new home. As we entered the entrance to our new home, it was surrounded by forests. Inside, there were townhouses to my right and down to my left. Right in front of us was 2 tall buildings, about maybe 20 floors. My grandparents lived in the middle of the first building. My uncle took us to the right side of the townhouses, then to the left section. Behind our home was the forest. It was nice and a quiet area. One of my brother went to Cremoni School, which is about 15 to 20 minutes, and my sisters and I went to Talala Elementary School. The school started me in 2nd grade, while my sister in 3rd. The principal, Mrs. Scales, was probably in her 80s, white hair, very nice, smells nice. She's very active in our learning. She often comes visit and sit with us in teaching us. Learning English was hard. As hard as it was, speaking and understanding it was even harder. As time went by, I learned a little and understand it more. Speaking English became easier. I have 2 friends I play with every day at school. As years went by with my sister, brother, and cousins, we explored the forest that was surrounding us. What we found was awesome. We found wild berry trees, strawberries, and pears. We enjoyed the forest very much. One morning, as I flipped through my mom's photo album, I noticed some black and white and old pictures of a burial with my mom standing next to it crying and holding a hat. I asked her about it. She said, that was my dad's. I said, that can't be because my dad is right here. She then said, your birth dad died during the war when you were 4 months old. He came home when you were born, then they called him back to the war where he never returned. I was born in Long Tien, Laos. My birth father was one of General Van Pau's right-hand man. General Van Pau was going to make him a general upon his return from the war, but unfortunately, he never returned. My father died 4 months after I was born. My father, along with General Van Pau and many other men, fought with American CIA team. My father was an honorable man, and he died for it. When General Van Pau took off his stars of his color before Suvarnabhumi, the Prime Minister of Laos, on the 5th of May, 1975, Laos warned that the Hmong people would be exterminated to the last root. By the end of 1975, about 40,000 Hmong had succeeded to reaching Thailand, traveling on foot through the mountains and floating across the Mekong River. We faced repression at home from the communist government as the price of our leaders' collaboration with the Americans. It's tragically sad that it took over 20 years for the United States to recognize the Hmong people and their support and aid in the war. Americans never heard of Hmong people like we never exist. Thousands upon thousands of lives were lost, but yet it took them decades to remember us. That's how the Hmong people were able to come to the United States, including my family. Though we lost so many in the process, I can't elaborate more on the war simply because my mom doesn't talk much about it. Therefore, I don't know all the details of the war. My uncles and people I met knew my father. And they would tell me very little about my father in the war that he died fighting for. Usually when they met me, they knew me as my father's last child before he died. I often wonder what my life would be like if he was alive. Will I be where I am today? Would my life be so challenging? Would my sisters and I face so many trials and struggles? What about my brothers? Would they both be the second generation in the military? I often wonder. Growing up, not understanding English well to communicate, I have very few friends. I have 2 friends in elementary, Tanya and Kelly. In middle school, I hung with my sister and my other Hmong friends, C and Maimi. I only have one American friend in high school, Mary. I still keep in touch with Mary and my Hmong friends, and of course, my sister. My oldest sister, the one left behind in Laos, eventually did make it to the United States. She went to school, got her GED, graduated from a beauty school. She now owns her own salon in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. She's running herself with her kids and her grandkids. Due to English being second language, I have problems understanding the use of verbs, adjectives, conjunctions, and all those unique ways of speaking and usage of the English language. Therefore, I am very shy and very quiet. It would take me a long time to warm up to people and carry a small conversations. I struggle with learning and speaking English my whole life. Even today, I still speak broken English. I still have hard time learning and understanding English. My kids may correct me all the time. Well, here I am in my English class learning English. So I can be a good nurse someday and have better communication skills. As we annotate these essays or these articles, I feel like I didn't know English, or that I haven't learned the language at all. English is an everyday challenge for me, wondering if I said this or that correctly. Or what do people think of me when I misuse or mispronounce words? Would they laugh or make fun of me when I'm not around? Regardless, people know what I'm talking about. I'm a mother of 6. After raising them to become independent young adults, I am at the age of 50. It's my turn to go to school to reach my goal as a registered nurse. As the challenge continues, my hope in the future is that I will be confident in what I know and fear not to speak it. Thank you. Our next person to give her poem is Hannah Jolson. Is a student at College of Redwoods. She plans to transfer next fall to study psychology. She is in committed relationship with her dog, Lilo. She recently uncovered an interest in poetry and has been enjoying going to local poetry slams. Hannah?
Guys, this is not my poem because I just decided to read on Sunday. So this is a poem that I found or was presented in my English class with Dave, and it's fitting, so I thought I'd read it. It's called Dulce et Decormus. It's by Wilfred Owen. He was a lieutenant in World War I, and he wrote this poem during the war before he was killed in action in 1918. Bent double, like old beggars under sacks, knock-kneed, coughing like hags, we cursed through sludge, till on the haunting flares we turned our backs, and towards our distant rest began to trudge. Men marched asleep, many had lost their boots, but limped on bloodshot. All went lame, all blind, drunk with fatigue, deaf even to the hoots of gas shells dropping softly behind. Gas, gas, quick boys, an ecstasy of fumbling, fitting the clumsy helmets just in time, but someone still was yelling out and stumbling, and floundering like a man in fire or lime. Dim through the misty panes and thick green light, as under a green sea I saw him drowning. In all my dreams, before my helpless sight, he plunges at me, guttering, choking, drowning. If in some smothering dreams you too could pace behind the wagon that we flung him in, and watch the white eyes writhing in his hanging face like a devil's sick of sin. If you could hear at every jolt the blood come gargling from froth-corrupted lungs, obscene as cancer, bitter as the cud of vile, incurable sores on innocent tongues, my friend, you would not tell with such high zest to children ardent for some desperate glory the old lie, dulce et decorum est, pro patria mori. The Latin phrase is from the Roman poet Horace, meaning, it is sweet and fitting to die for one's country. educator and community organizer. They help facilitate Word Humboldt, the weekly poetry night in Arcata. They appreciate these spaces of shared learning and love connecting about their work. Alex.
Hey everyone. I'm gonna take a deep breath if you guys want to take one with me. This poem is pretty intense, but I feel safe enough in this city to be able to speak this truth. Code switch. Basically, we learn to act white to survive. Like, I talk differently around my brown friends than I do my white ones. My white friends also talk different around their brown friends than they do their white ones. The difference is that code switch is a luxury to be cool. And brown people switch to white language is survival necessary assimilation to be accepted within the broader systems of this society. We learn to act white to survive because whiteness is seen as professional, while our cultures are called ghetto by descendants of the people who pushed us into the ghettos and are happy to keep us there when we don't perform that switch for them, like my grandparents being beat at school for speaking Spanish. Growing up and teaching their kids not to speak Spanish at all, code switch is our existence as it becomes a performance for the colonizers, and boy, do we get lost in the act. Like white people telling us that we're so well-spoken. That's a code switch compliment for you don't sound brown. Like trying to conjure compassion for my dad for immigrants, and he says, I'm not Mexican, I'm American. Switch. Well, Dad, I'm shook. You code switched so hard, I guess you changed our fucking DNA, and I am mad at him. But what else could he really say? Our family has been exploited in generations-long cultural genocide that's required to make it here. From back-breaking laboring in the fields for a nation that didn't want us to stay once we fed them, to turning our backs on each other once we finally got past the gates. Like 25% of Latinos supporting Trump. Switch. Clinging so fucking steadfast to a nationalism that does not cling back to our brown skin, a nationalism that hunts and kidnaps our people to send them back to another part of our own fucking land. Code switch is some tricky shit, but we know we better do it right, because sometimes it straight up takes our people. Fuck ICE. So it's really no surprise that it is safer to identify with the European colonizers of this land than with each other. And Stockholm Syndrome still has the upper hand, like a whole brown population and continent being named Hispanic, aka of Spain, aka dog tags of our colonizers still strapped too tightly around our goddamn necks. Fuck being called Hispanic, you know, before the Europeans came to save us, aka steal our resources and destroy our land. My people had our own rituals, foods, and beauty standards that I will never truly know. And also, LA was Mexico, fuck ICE. But code switch, being on some trick, it was legitimately Mexico. LA was a city before it was colonized. But code switch, being on some tricky shit, steals a city, steals a country, and then steals your whole damn culture to sell it back to you. Like the white lady with, this one is hard because we're in Humboldt, but you guys need to hear it. Like the white lady with dreads at the gym teaching people how to dance to my culture's music with no rhythm and making money off of it, watering it down. Or the other one on the plaza, making money selling our culture's tamales, literally watering them the fuck down. More code switch is this whole continent being raped into Christianity. It is white Jesus splayed across the crucifix statue and facing back towards a fully brown congregation. Code switch said, don't question it, but take the subconscious message. It's That white isn't just the standard, it's that white is godlike. And of all the diseases they brought us, spiritual imposter syndrome is the most insidious shit. Code switch is losing our heritage, and generations later breaking our backs, trying to reach back, to grab it, to grasp it, being robbed of our native languages by Spanish colonization, and years later being shamed for our colonized tongue, Spanish, by English and British colonization. We cannot switch our costume tongues out fast enough for the next hungry audience, and yet we still must insist on speaking. We still must insist on breathing. Because we are still here. So fuck it, code switched for a colonizer audience, best to trade it in for a mouth weaponized at least enough to call out generations of systemic racism that inevitably results from colonialism. But we are still here, being ghetto as fuck, for real. Check out the income disparity between the average white household and the average brown household. It's basically that on average, for every $100 a white family has, a brown one has 17. But it's cool though, we're still performing wide enough to teach in your schools though, and our thrift store clothes and hot Cheeto fingers, correcting these racist textbooks like, class, they're lying. Women didn't get the right to vote in 1920. Only white women did, even though so many women of color fought for it. It was like 45 years after that for the rest of us. And it's said that victors get to write the history. And yet we still must insist on speaking. We still must insist on breathing, because I am still here. And we have always belonged here. This is brown land. It's switching back.
So I'd like to invite all the performers to come up onto the stage, and let's give them a round of applause as they come up. I'm just going to get a photograph of the whole group, so if you guys just get together. And I'd like to thank all of you for coming tonight and for enjoying the show. And stick around, talk to the performers. We'll be here for a few more minutes, so thank you for coming tonight.